Hello everyone, welcome to this AltCHI 2024 presentation titled Pheno-data Knowledge from Tomatoes Becoming with Different Ecological Worlds. In this presentation, we discuss the diverse forms of data derived from tomatoes in different environments and the entangled relations of data, tomatoes, humans, and nature. Do you like tomatoes? Personally, I prefer local tomatoes due to their rich flavor compared to supermarket one. Have you ever considered why commercial and local tomatoes vary in color, shape, and taste? In our paper, we explore the relationship between various data and tomatoes in different contexts. This can help us understand how these different forms of data could influence the characteristics and evolution of tomatoes. Tomatoes are engineered, cultivated, or evolved in various locations such as indoor farms, local gardens, and the Galapagos Islands. These different ecologies involving humans, other organisms, and nature influence their growth and evolution. As a result, tomatoes can appear artificial plastic-like or very much alive and real. But why do these tomatoes evolve differently? And how might various forms of data impact their diverse evolutions? To delve into the crucial questions, we begin with a quote from Youngsil introducing the concepts of taken and given data. In this digital society, we often extract data from nature for economic and scientific purposes. This practice has received criticism due to associated social and ecological issues such as data colonialism. In response, we see taken data extracted from nature for anthropocentric and capitalist purposes and view given data as the vibrant expressions and manifestations of diverse lives and existences, which are embodied, relational, and contextual. Additionally, we introduce Pheno-data as a new term for observable data given by the evolving characteristics and responses of living organisms in a situated environment. In our context, the living organism is tomatoes, and Pheno-data would be its color, shape, smell, movement, and livingness. Let's look at commercial tomato as an example. The growth of these tomatoes is influenced by the taken data such as biodata and computation data, as well as the given data coming from their interactions with the environmental conditions and bees. As a result, the Pheno-data of these tomatoes become more uniform, predictable, and easier to manipulate. In our paper, we use the concepts of taken, given, and Pheno-data to explore how different aspects of data and data practices are embodied and manifested in three types of tomatoes. So then, what would be the taken, given, and Pheno-data of tomatoes look like for us? What kinds of data information, experience, and memories spring to your mind? I would like to share a video of an interesting conversation about data and memories of tomatoes with individuals at a community-supported garden in Amsterdam. They come from diverse backgrounds, including a farming trainer, civil servant, data scientist, UN youth representative, and UX designer. Let's watch the video.
As a farmer in training, I think the price of seed, market price, supermarket price, transport emissions, how much soil you need, how much water you need, how many pesticides might have been used for those tomatoes. But I also think about family name, varieties, that type of information.
Yeah, like round, red, green, seeds, shiny, these are all visual data points.
This word data just kept on echoing in my mind, and I just imagined a tomato and having this grid, and you can just push the grid over the tomato, and then the tomato has all these squares, and it's some sort of data association I had with tomatoes.
Cutting it up into pieces.
Cutting it up into squares.
The first thing was coming up with the dimensions. How would you describe the tomato from the size point of view, price, or you can come up with 1,000 dimensions, and then I realized, okay, we have to build a layer where you can store as much as information that is going to look like a star. This is how we actually store data. And you can choose what kind of information do you want to combine to build the story that you need to build, what kind of story you need to build. There are like facts tables that are giving you facts. For example, when specifically some action has happened, when tomato was, in which year or in which month the tomato was plotted, or the tomato was getting green, or tomato was getting red. So you can track all of that data. Or you can also tables that are about dimensions.
The color of the tomatoes is important for your appetite to eat it.
Which color do you like?
The dark.
And I lived in Spain, I traveled a lot, and I know what's a good tomato. SIGCHI. Big vlees tomato, from Spain, grown outside.
In Greece,
from local gardens. That's a tomato. Seasonal products of local area, I think is the best.
And then the memories. I thought immediately of one holiday with my parents back in Italy when I was a small boy, and we picked up a hitchhiker, an old man, and he was very happy that we picked him up, and he had this huge bag of tomatoes with him, and he gave us a bunch of them. I remember they were the most delicious tomatoes I've ever.
Funny thing is, now that you tell this,
It
memory pops back in my mind.
You haven't thought about it for years.
Yeah,
probably,
but I can still remember the presence of that old man mostly. Not so much his tomatoes, but more the presence.
About the memories. Tomatoes has very specific, distinct taste. That's why I didn't like them when I was a child. I never eaten them for many years, and I think it's been 3 years that I'm eating tomatoes. And another thing is that indeed a very distinct memory of a difference of the tomatoes that are in the supermarket or that are in the field, and we call it, is it plastic or not plastic? Oh, this tomato looks plastic. You smell it? Oh, it doesn't smell? No. Then I don't like it.
I think the red ones look more appealing somehow, but I think a lot of people are appealed by the color red. A lot like red lipstick, red dress, red everything. I even heard people using red lights on food in shops, so it looks a bit more reddish and more tasteful somehow.
I also have this image of a grandma. I don't know if maybe it's even a commercial from TV, that you see this Italian grandmother with tomatoes.
Bertolli,
maybe it's
Isn't it fascinating to see how people differentiated between data and memories of tomatoes? Somehow, in the conversation, data tends to be economy-oriented, scientific, and computational, like taken data. On the other hand, memories are emotional, sensory, and relational, like given data and Pheno-data. Furthermore, the thing is that when we think of tomatoes, we often imagine red, perfectly round ones associated with an Italian grandma similar to a Bertolli commercial. Isn't it interesting? But the reality is that there are various species of tomatoes in different colors like purple, yellow, and even white, with various shapes. These diverse tomatoes are evolving in various local gardens and wild areas. Look at the first picture. We often forget that even plastic-looking commercial tomatoes are alive. We believe that this approach of data allows us to pay attention to the livingness of organisms and nature, thereby generating greater diversity and resilience. Ultimately, it will enable us to notice, respond to, and care for their livingness, and reconnect with real and alive tomatoes and more than human worlds. In AltCHI, we invite you to recontextualize and reimagine histories, presents, and futures with data, information, and knowledge given by other than human organisms becoming with their life world. For more information about our research and the interesting stories of 3 tomatoes, please look at our AltCHI paper. Thank you for listening to our presentation.